Chrys Peterson is a former television news anchor who spent 20 years with WTOL-TV in Toledo, Ohio. While on the air, she earned a loyal following, not only for her work on the set, but for her commitment to the community. She continues to be the face of the Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure, an area event that now generates more than $1 million per year for breast cancer research. Through it all, Chrys has developed an enduring personal brand. Would you please welcome to Shop Talk, Chrys Peterson.
Scott asked me to talk a little bit about personal brand, and it's a subject that I have given a lot of thought to over my 28-year career in television news. And I think that in television, it's a little more obvious that people need to do that because you're watching us every night, and we're asking you to invite us into your homes every night. And so we try to make a personal connection with people. But I truly believe that in the world we live in today and in business, it's just as important, no matter what industry you work in, for you to have a personal brand that is recognizable, that is communicated on a consistent basis, and that is authentic. And so we're going to talk a little bit about all of those things this afternoon. And again, if you have questions as we go along, please feel free to raise your hand and engage in a discussion here. I saw a quote one time that said, "Someday you will be just a memory to some people. So make sure you're a good one." And I've kind of tried to live my life that way as I've gone through not only my career, but my personal life. And I think one thing that really helped me do that, when I was in college, my mom worked for Marriott Corporation. And one of the things that she did for them was she was a trainer. And she trained Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Have any of you read that book here? Okay. So my mother she's a Covey disciple. I mean, she believes in all of that, and she lives it. And, so I was under great pressure to read and live and be a disciple too. And I do think that it's wonderful advice and a lot of common sense, but things that we don't often think about in our everyday lives. But his habit number 2 is begin with the end in mind. And what Covey suggests is that we all think about a funeral experience, and it's our own funeral experience. And 4 people are going to speak at your funeral: somebody from your family, someone from your workplace, someone from a church or civic group that you belong to, and someone from your circle of friends. And what do you want those 4 people to say about you at the end of your life? Because the choices and the decisions that we make every day, the actions that we do every day, are ultimately what help people form those opinions about us in the long run. And it's over time, and it can be instantaneous as well. And so it's really important that you know what you would like for people to say about you. How do you want people to regard you? What do you want people to think about you? How would someone summarize you in one sentence if they were summarizing you the way that you would want to be remembered? Have any of you really ever given thought to that? Because I really hadn't until my mom, was asking me to do this exercise with her. And it's really important. I think we go through our lives, we're very busy, we know we have goals, professional goals that we want to accomplish. And sometimes it's kind of like in the book Alice in Wonderland, and Alice comes to a fork in the road, and the Cheshire Cat appears, and she says, "Which road do I take?" And he says, "Where do you want to go?" And she said, "I don't really know." And he said, "Then it doesn't really matter." And it's kind of that way in our lives with our personal brand also. You have to know what that end point is to be able to take the steps to get there. And so being able to articulate that and to think about that and to build a personal mission statement for yourself is really, really important. Think about words. It's a difficult process. It was very difficult for me. I got my master's degree at Lourdes University in organizational leadership. And one of the first things that we had to do was come up with our personal mission statement. It's hard. You think about all the things that are important in your life and the goals you want to accomplish. And when you try to boil it down to a personal mission statement, it's really difficult. It took me a couple of weeks to be able to really articulate what I wanted to do and how I wanted to be remembered and what my mission was as far as I was concerned in this life. So, but I encourage you all to do that. Make a personal mission statement for yourself because it's really important, and you can always come back to that. Always come back to that funeral experience when you're at a crossroads or when you're thinking to yourself, am I really behaving the way that I want to behave? Authenticity is so important. One of the first great pieces of advice I got in television news when I first started out was in Little Harrisonburg, Virginia. In the 212 markets of America, it's like market 175. It's where I started my career. And there was a woman there named Mary Beth Marsden. She's had a wonderful career in Baltimore, Maryland. And she said to me the greatest piece of advice she ever got, which was, don't ever try to be something you're not on television because people will see through it. You know, there are people that have television personalities when they go on TV. There are many of us who have professional personalities, sales personalities, marketing personalities, whatever it is, you know, our radio personalities that we portray. But eventually, we live in a world now where things are so close, and social media plays such a role. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment too, that it's hard to really try to portray yourself as something over here if you're not living it every day, because people will see it. So authenticity, I think, is really, really important. And to be able to translate and communicate with your actions and your words every day who you are, what that personal mission statement is, because it's the authentic you. It's who you are, and it's the essence of what you want people to know about you. And so you are living it, hopefully naturally, every day. The way you present yourself, I think, is really important also. When I was looking for jobs in television, I saw a piece of research that said news directors will pop in your tape or eventually a DVD. That's how old I am. We were sending VHS tapes to news directors, that they would make a decision in 7 seconds whether they were going to continue to look at your tape or whether they were just going to pop it out and move on to the next one. And in our real lives, that is also the case. People do look at you. They do look at you and judge you by the way that you present yourself. That doesn't mean that you can't have your own personal style. It doesn't mean you can't be cool and represent yourself in the way that you want to be represented. But it means that you have to give thought to how that other person is receiving you on the other end. Because just because you're, a really cool cat and you know that your work speaks for itself doesn't mean that you can show up with baggy drawers and worn out shoes, when you're talking to somebody. I mean, people want to know that the work they're going to get from you is neat and professional. And so when they see you in person, they want to know that what they're seeing is what they're getting in the way of work and in the way of engagement with them. And so that's very important too. Your image and your personal brand really might be the only thing in your life that you have total control over. You can't control who hires you and fires you. You can't really control who buys your company. You can't control what business may come in, may come out. You can't control a diagnosis of a disease or something that happens in your life. And you certainly can't control the actions and behavior of anyone else in your life as well. So take that very seriously and think about that image and what that means, because really our image is everything. And I'm not just talking about the TV image. I'm talking about the person that you are and making sure that you are portraying that in a consistent manner every day to the people that you come in contact with. And that's professionally and personally. That you are behaving the same way with the vice president of your company as you are with the janitor that's working down the hall. Because that's who you are, and that's what you have control over in your life. And that will never fail you, because that is the essence of who you are. social media. Cameras are everywhere. And so for you to try to be, it was never a question for me. I could never be this professional on television and then be dancing on the tables of the bars, on a Saturday night. That wasn't going to work for me in my profession. But really, I think it's something we all have to think about, because it's not just those obvious scenarios of dancing, on the bars on the weekends. It's the comments you make on Twitter. It's the comments you make on people's Facebook posts. It's engaging with people in some kind of political argument over something that really doesn't matter, because that is available for everyone to see. And in fact, employers ask for access to your social media now before they'll even hire you in some cases. So it's really important that you are not just some snarky tweeter, that is not really representing who you are. I would be happy for anybody to look back at my professional and personal Facebook pages, and I have two, and my Twitter feed. Look at it all you want to, because there's nothing on there that I'm not going to be able to, that anybody's going to say, why would you write something like that? It's just, it's not worth it. It's not worth you losing business or, offending somebody that might be a good professional contact to you. So I'm just saying that I think it's something we all need to think about. It's so easy to go on social media and just somebody makes you so mad with a comment and just, before. And it's funny because during my career in television, I noticed a big change. When I first started out on TV, of course, there were no computers. People had to actually write handwritten letters to you when they wanted to say something or engage with you in a basis. And I will remember in 1987, a postcard that I got, I think from a crotchety old lady, who, I say that, who said, I don't know what you're doing on TV. You look like you just put your finger in the electric socket before you get on the air every night. Your hair's a mess and your eyebrows look crazy and, all these funny things. And it crushed me. It crushed me. And to think that someone would actually take the time to sit down and write that on a post. Of course, there was no return address. It was anonymous. It wasn't even signed by anyone. But it really hurt my feelings. But it made me realize, first of all, I had to toughen up. But as the years went on in television, it became so much easier for people to give their opinions about what you were wearing, what your eyebrows and hair looked like, how evenly your ears were pierced. I got a comment about that one day. Because all they have to do is go on email and zip it off. And we do that without thinking about it because it's easy to do and click send. With a letter, you might write it and then you go back over and read it, and I think that we're in that instantaneous society now where we just make those comments and then we're done with it and it's out of our mind. And you just have to be more thoughtful than that. You have to be more thoughtful than that because people are looking at it and they are taking, if that's the only contact they have with you, and let's face it, I have a lot of people that I'm friends with on Twitter or Facebook, I don't even know them. I don't know them in person. If I saw them in this room, if it's one of you, no, I wouldn't know them, So all they know of me and all I know of them is that little slice of Twitter or Facebook or, how they engage with me on a social media basis. So just think of that and remember that when you're engaging with people because it's really important. Does that represent the kind of person that you want to be? I think character is really important too, and integrity. And I think that is something that we have to think about in our professional and our personal lives. I love the story about John Lear, who, the airplane Lear, began developing aircraft back in the 1950s and came up with this beautiful jet. 1964, he had sold his first Lear jet. It was a huge success. But soon after he started going gangbusters with his sales, there were 2 mysterious plane crashes of his aircraft, and nobody could explain why it happened. He couldn't figure it out. He thought he knew what the problem might be, but with the plane on the ground, he couldn't figure it out. and he didn't want to endanger anyone else and send them up in the plane. So he got behind the controls of the plane and went up and figured out what it was, almost lost his life figuring it out. But he figured it out, was able to recover and come down and fix his aircraft. He had grounded everything. For 2 years it took them to figure this out. And the people that had bought aircraft from him, he had to give their money back. And it was a huge, huge situation for him, turning point for him. Am I going to go forward? Am I not going to go forward? But he had the integrity and the character to take that upon himself. He believed in himself and his product so much that he was able to have the character to go up and try to figure out what was wrong with it himself, and figured it out, and obviously has been a huge success in that industry. He risked his fortune, his success, even his own life, but his integrity and his character was intact because of it, and he went on to be very successful because of that. Our character is what we do when we think no one is looking. And so that goes back to that social media. It goes back to the way that we present ourselves at the bar on Saturday night, and in every aspect of our lives, because people are always watching. And under adversity, we choose one of two paths, and one is character and one is compromise. Compromise is going to get you in trouble. Character is what we want to be able to live up to. So what is character? It's more than talk. You can't separate your talk, your words, from your actions. You have to walk the walk, walk the talk. You have to be able to live your mission statement, live that funeral experience every day. Talent is a gift, but character is a choice that we make every day. It was a choice for John Lear to figure out what that problem was and to get behind the plane controls himself. And often making the right character choices helps us to improve our personal brand, because it's helping us learn about ourselves and learn how to operate in a more positive way and to present ourselves in a way that we feel really proud of, which makes us more confident about ourselves and our abilities. UCLA coach John Wooden, one of the winningest college coaches of all time, but also was a great leader and he's written many books on leadership as well. And he was famous for his winning teams and his good leadership. But when he was a college coach, he actually sent, and this was before internet now, he's looking for college players to come play from high schools all over the country. And he has to do it the old fashioned way with scouts and on the phone and sending those old fashioned letters. He would send a character questionnaire to high school coaches for players that he was interested in. He could look up their stats all day long. He knew what their statistics were, how many baskets they made, how many rebounds they made, that sort of thing. What he wanted to know was about their hustle. He wanted to know if they were good teammates to their teammates. He wanted to know if they came to practice on time, if they showed up and did their best in every game, if they were good leaders on the court and off the court. And only those players that had those good characteristics, those good character qualities, were players that he would accept onto his team at UCLA. To a man, the men that played for him believed they were better, not only players, but better people, because of the lessons that he taught them and the emphasis that he put on their character and not only on their play on the court. Character can bring lasting success for people in the workplace, and so it's really important for you to understand and make those decisions properly. James Kouzes and Barry Posner, they've written a book called The Leadership Challenge, and they've done over 30 years, they've interviewed thousands and thousands, like 30,000 successful business leaders all across the country, and done a lot of surveys among people. And the number one character trait that everyone says that they want to look at, over 30 years and 30,000 respondents, is honesty. And to me, that speaks to exactly that, the integrity, your character, honesty. You want to know that somebody is a straight shooter with you. You want to know that what you're talking to them about is exactly what they mean. They are going to fulfill their commitments. They are going to be honest with you and be a straight shooter. And that is exactly what character is. And it's really hard to get it back once you lose it. So the trick is to try not to lose it in the first place and just to try to maintain that integrity as you go through with your professional and personal brand. We hear stories all the time of leaders who come crashing down. You know, they seem like they have everything and they come crashing down. And to me, it always boils down to a character flaw, a character limitation. They strayed away from the things that were important, the mission that they should have been on. And it's very obvious when you kind of get to the bottom of the story, when you see these big businesses that go under. You know, they're not paying attention to things that need to be paid attention to. And so it's really important for all of us to remember that we control that. You know, stay on that successful path, but don't be greedy and don't let greed get in the way of your integrity, because you cannot get that back very easily once it's gone. So how do we improve our character? And this is one thing that I always tell people: you need to have a personal board of directors. I bounce ideas and things off my mother. I have a couple of friends that I use, and my husband. These are people that are very honest with me. It's funny, my husband is a baseball coach. He coaches for the Colorado Rockies. And it's been very interesting for us to kind of see some of the players and how they've evolved. You know, they start out as these really great, gritty, hungry hustler players. And then as they get those bazillion-dollar contracts, as they come up through the major leagues, maybe their finger hurts today and they're not going to play, or, you know, whatever. But you can see with some people how that money and how that, you know, affects them. And in my personal opinion, it's because they don't surround themselves with mirrors. They surround themselves with people who will tell them what they want to hear. And that's not helpful to any of us. You know, I don't want somebody telling me all the time, you know, how great I am. I want to be improving myself all the time, and I want to be growing all the time. And the only way to do that is to be able to make sure that you have somebody that's going to keep it real with you. You know, look, you know, that wasn't cool what you did, you know, yesterday to her. You promised her that you'd be there for this, and then you didn't show up because you were too tired. That, you know, that's not right. And so to have that personal board of directors that can really call you out when you do something that is not in line with your mission is really, really important. Look in the mirror for cracks in that character foundation all the time. And I think we all know when we do things like that. I mean, but really, do we self-evaluate as much as we should? And I think that a lot of times the answer is no, we don't. Look for cracks. Am I living my mission? Do your, you know, every 6 months or every month or every year, however often you think you really need to like look back and take a look at who you want to be, who you want those people to describe in your funeral experience, and who you really have been over that past time period, however long it is. I'm a frequent self-evaluator. You know, some people don't like to do it. They'll do it maybe every first of the year when they're doing their New Year's resolutions, you know, kind of look back. Sometimes on big birthdays, you'll do it, you know, the 5s and the 0s hit. So Patty, you're safe. No need for big self-evaluation this year. But, you know, you do kind of tend to look back and evaluate, am I where I want to be professionally? Am I where I want to be personally? Am I on the path that I set out for myself? Am I fulfilling my mission? Because if you're not, bring it back. And it's easier to do if you're constantly looking for those cracks and really being, I wouldn't say hard on yourself, but being truthful with yourself about where you're headed and where you'd like to be headed. Learn from your mistakes. I mean, that's the one hugest thing. If you make a mistake with somebody professionally or personally, you know, people are forgiving people in most cases. And I have known people that have cost business leaders millions of dollars who have been forgiven because they said, look, I thought this would work and it didn't. Okay, let's move forward. But trying to cover things up, trying to make it seem like, you know, yeah, it wasn't really my fault. That was Jones over there. You know, he was really in charge of that. It's not, you know, you're not growing, you're not learning, and you're not taking responsibility and saying you're sorry, asking for forgiveness. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to get it. and you're going to learn, and you're not going to make the mistake again. So learning from your mistakes and offering sincere apologies to those that you've wronged, I think, has been something that has really been important to me and my personal brand. Be confident in who you are and what you have to offer people. What connects to people is not this person that you think they want to see, but it's the real journey that you've experienced all through your life to this point, warts and all the things that you've overcome to get where you are, all of the things that you have excelled at and been awarded for and rewarded for in your life to be the person that you are. They want the whole package. Everybody has something. We've all made mistakes. We've all been in in situations before where we've had to learn and grow, and people like to know that you've been there too, and that makes an instant connection with people. Oh my God, yeah, that happened to me too, and here's how I handled it. So don't try to be this perfect person. Nobody expects you to be an expert on everything. It's very funny because when you're a reporter, really you need two things. Natural curiosity is one thing, and you really need to dig and ask the right questions of people when you're talking to them about a story. And I've seen this happen on live shots, not just in local television, but even on national television, on CNN and Fox News and MSNBC, when people are interviewing people live, the person they're interviewing will give answers as if we all know what they're talking about. And the reporter will pretend yeah, they know what they're talking about. But they don't know what they're talking about. And I don't know what they're talking about. And so sometimes when our reporters would go out, and I would always tell them, look, you need to have a canned answer in your head so that when I ask you a question, if you don't know the answer to it, you just say, we're still gathering information. I'm going to get that answer for you, and we'll have it for you in the next newscast. I'm not trying to make you look bad, but if I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what did he mean by that when he said that? I'm guaranteed that the people in the audience are sitting there saying, what did he mean by that? And I'm not doing my due diligence as a news anchor if I'm not asking you, what did you mean by that? To clarify for me or to give more information on that particular subject. Don't act like you know everything. If somebody's talking about something or using an acronym, one of my best friends works for Homeland Security. She's a communication director for TSA. They use all sorts of acronyms. The only one I really know is MASH. And she said when she first went there, she sat in a meeting and she said she came out, her head felt like it was about to explode because they were saying, well, this cap and this fish and this, whatever. And she's like, fish? What's a fish? What is a cap? What does this mean? And she has now a whole handbook where she has all these acronyms so that anybody that comes into that position or comes into the agency as a new person is able to kind of figure out what they're all talking about, Don't act like you know everything or that nobody expects you to be an expert on everything. What people expect for you to do is meet them where they are, to ask them the important questions so that you understand what they're talking about and so that you can do the job for them that they're asking you to do on a professional basis. Ask questions. Don't be afraid. You go to a fire and, you're interviewing somebody there for a news story and they say, that other arson down the street. And you're looking at them like, oh yeah, that other arson. Because you don't want to look stupid if you reported it, 2 weeks ago and you weren't paying attention maybe to that story that day. So you try to pretend like you know what you're talking about when really maybe nobody knew about that. Maybe it was covered up. Maybe you want to say, remind me about that again. Or if you're talking to people and they're asking you for, here's a complaint that I have about this, and this is what you want to do, this is how you did something, or this is how so-and-so did something, you say, do you have a suggestion on how to overcome that or make it better? To engage people and ask for the information and ask for input in situations, because we don't know everything. And you don't want to get caught off guard in an important situation where, then the boss is asking you, well, yeah, what did she mean by that other fire? I don't know. I thought you would know. I thought maybe we reported it last. I don't know. And then you get caught off guard. there is a blog I follow online, and the guy talked one day about turning pro, P-R-O. It's an acronym. It stands for purpose, passion for the P, relationships, and offerings, pro. And we are all pro at something. Find your purpose and passion. Get in touch with what it is that's really important to you in life, and then find ways to integrate that into your professional business and your professional dealings and into your personal life, your volunteer hours. Very important that you are doing something that you feel like you have purpose and passion to do. Anchoring the news was fun. It's a cool job. I loved it all those years that I did it. But really what drove me was making a difference to people. That was my passion. My passion was looking at a problem and helping to find a solution, or looking at a need and helping to find a way to fill it. And TV is a great platform for that. We started the Race for the Cure 20 years ago here in Toledo with 600 people walking and running. And last year we had 18,000 people in the Toledo race, and started a new race in Findlay that had 3,000 people for the first race. That is a passion for me, to know that we have raised millions of dollars, that women have been diagnosed with breast cancer because they got screenings and found it early, because we raised that money for them to be able to have that available to them. Whatever your purpose is, whatever your passion is, and it doesn't have to be something that's so necessarily altruistic, Maybe your passion and purpose is making money for people, whatever it is, or helping other people market themselves and branding themselves. Whatever it is that really jazzes you up, make sure that you find that. The R, relationships, so important. Who would you like to most serve in the world? Who is it that you're trying to reach? Who do you want to make a difference to? And build those relationships and engage with those people. And it cannot just be online. This has to be a look people in the eye, face-to-face, engaging with people, finding out what makes them tick, and meeting them, again, where they are, and not bringing them to where you are so that you understand what's going on with them. And then offerings. What do you have that you can give to these people? And I don't mean give it for free. I mean, what do you have to offer to these people that will help advance your relationship, either personally or professionally, and will still ignite your passion and will further your passion for whatever it is that you have a passion and purpose for? Very important. Your creative expression, and we have tons of creative people here. My brother is an artist. I think, we all, it's like that letter, that crushing postcard that I got, in 1987 from the woman telling me that my hair looks like an electric socket. We all want to be liked, pretty much. We all want people to recognize our work as good. But your work doesn't have any more value because someone says they like it, and nor does it have any less value because they say they don't like it. Find the people that connect with you, that like what you do, that feel a synergy with your same purpose and passion and your same offerings, and make sure that you are connecting with those people. Because, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, really. Am I the best anchor woman that ever lived? Well, if you ask Scott Gregory, he'll say yes. But, truly, I never thought I was the best anchor woman ever. I mean, but I did think that I brought something to the table. I know in my heart that I really cared about this community, that I really wanted to use my platform on television to be able to raise awareness for certain things and to raise the level of involvement in certain, not only charity organizations, but community needs, the economy of our community, politics of our community, all those types of things were very important to me. And so I know that was really a sincere thing. So am I the most sincere anchor? Maybe. Am I the best one? No. What I had, though, connected with a lot of people because I think I was able to communicate what was important to me. I was able to live my brand with people, and I think people knew that. And I tried to be the same person I was on TV in person when people would see me. And I'm not perfect. And I had a lot of growing, that I did over 28 years. I am still doing it. I am a lifelong learner. Got my master's degree at the age of 45. So I think that we all have a lot to learn as we go through our lives. But be confident and be confident in the gifts and talents that you have and what you have to give other people, because it will connect with somebody. And just because one person doesn't connect with it doesn't mean that somebody else won't. You have to maintain courage. You have to, I'll tell you another story too about me. Before I came to Toledo, I kept a stack, and again, this was back in the olden days before the internet was invented by Al Gore. I was looking for a job. I was working in Scranton, Wilkesburg, Pennsylvania, and I, would send out 4 or 5 resume tapes and letters to news directors every week. And I would get rejection letters back, and I would stack them up on my dining room table. And I would look at those letters every day, and it made me more determined. And I would look at them and say, you're going to be sorry you didn't hire me because I'm going to be great somewhere someday. And, just kind of use that as a fuel for my ability to send more out and just know that I had confidence in myself. And I had a stack of them before I was hired here in Toledo. And when I was hired in Toledo was not my goal. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I was really thinking that I was going to go back to Washington, D.C. And live at home, not at home with my mom, but live in my hometown and, return where I started. And things change. I sent a tape to a blind box. I probably wouldn't have sent it to Toledo. Not that I didn't have anything against Toledo, but I didn't know anything about Toledo. And I wouldn't have sent a tape here for a job because it wasn't the direction of the country that I was trying to get from Pennsylvania. So for me to be able to kind of send a tape to a blind box and then end up here, a place that I had a 20-year career and have raised a family and met my husband and got married and have had a wonderful life, that was a huge lesson to me. Sometimes coming out of your comfort zone and you get surprised by how much you grow and by how much you learn and love your life. The blessings that you receive back from all of those kind of forks in the road where you kind of don't know where you're going and you appreciate what you have and where you've gone. So you have to maintain commitment and courage. Commitment is so important. And, 2 of the biggest brands, personal brands, I'm going to say Colonel Sanders. And I love to tell this story about Colonel Sanders because he started his dream of Kentucky Fried Chicken at the age of 65. He got his first Social Security check and he was mad because he didn't like the amount that he got. He said, this is crazy. I've worked all my life. I'm going to find a way to make a bigger fortune than this. So at the age of 65, put on his little white suit. He had this chicken recipe and went door to door at gas stations and diners and restaurants trying to sell this chicken recipe. And legend has it that he knocked on 1,009 doors. He heard the word no 1,009 times, slept in his car, drove around the country until somebody said, yes, we love this chicken, and made him a bazillionaire. And really, he never realized his true fortune because, today the company is still growing. And if he was here today to see what had happened with KFC on every corner and in every country in the world, imagine how proud and excited that he would be and how rich he would be. Michael Jordan, again, great personal brand for himself. Famous for being cut from his high school basketball team. I never knew that until I started reading about him, and he turned out to be arguably the greatest basketball player, unless you're a LeBron fan. Hey, you might argue with me, I don't know. But he never let that failure deter him, and he kept his commitment to what he wanted to do and his purpose and passion. And I love this quote from Michael Jordan. He said, "I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. On 26 occasions, I've been entrusted to take the game-winning shot, and I missed. I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." It's really easy to let yourself get down over those things. And listen, it's amazing to me. I told you, my husband's a coach for the Rockies. Like, my mood improves dramatically on the days they win their games. I give him a lot of credit for, through 162 games of a 6 or 7 month baseball season, maintaining this even keel, this even personality that he has, and not riding that roller coaster that the fans ride, of the wins and losses. It's so important. And I've tried to learn something from him about that, because I think if we all can try to maintain that in our personal life also, it's going to help our personal brand as we go through. You have to have tough skin. And listening to understand with people really helps with that. I saw a statistic the other day that said that most people listen to respond and not to understand. And one of Stephen Covey's lessons in his 7 habits is seek first to understand and then to be understood. And I think that that's true. A lot of us don't active listen. We don't practice it in our daily lives. We kind of think we know what they're going to say out here, so we're formulating our response while they're out here talking. And you can't do it. Engage with people. Listen to what they're saying. Meet them where they are. Understand where they're coming from and who they are, and it will help you to respond better. Take a breath. Take a second before you respond, before you say, this is what we should do, and kind of think, where is this person coming from, and how can I make them feel good about this situation for both of us? Really, really important, because everyone has something to teach you. And sometimes they teach you something about yourself. Sometimes what you learn is in the way that you respond to that person. So it's really important that we listen actively.